Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am going to share what I read for the month of June. June was Caribbean Heritage Month, so I did participate in the CaribAthon readathon, which was hosted by Karen from Run Right Reads and Peta from Comfy Cozy Up. I will link their channels in the description. But essentially this was a readathon to encourage people to read authors from the Caribbean. So first I'll share with you the couple of books I read for CaribAthon, and then I will share with you the other two random things that I read in June. So the first book I read was Claire of the Sea Light by Edwidge, Danticat, and this story is bookended by the story of Claire, so you don't really follow that character through the entirety of the novel. The rest of the book really delves into different character studies of people who live in this fictional town of Ville-Rose in Haiti. So the story does start with Claire, and Claire's mother died in childbirth, and her father has been trying to get a local rich woman to raise Claire, which she finally agrees to on Claire's 7th birthday, and that's how we start the story. The book then moves on to different characters in the town and their different struggles or scandals or secrets. And the stories do eventually intertwine and bring us back to the end of the book to Claire and her father and her potential adoptive mother. So I found all of the different characters interesting in their own ways. However, I thought that the story jumped from person to person frequently, and the book isn't very long, so it didn't really give enough time to get to know the characters that well. I felt the characters could have been developed a little bit more, and that the way that their stories interweaved could have been a little bit more meaningful and less superficial. I did, however, like the story, like this book overall, and I think something I really appreciate about this book is that it feels very rooted in place, in Haiti, in the seaside town, and I would be interested to pick up another book from this author. The next book that I read for CaribAthon was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this actually I don't think really is like a Caribbean book like the last one was, but the author is, I don't know if she was born in the Dominican Republic or I think maybe she was born in the US, but her parents are from the Dominican Republic. And the protagonist in this novel is also an American with immigrant parents who are Dominican. So we follow Xiomara. She's a teenager who is, of course, going through all the normal coming of age types of things that you do. This is a young adult novel, and it's about her really finding her place. She really finds a solace in poetry to express her feelings. And oh, I guess I should mention that this is written in verse. It's very much like her diary. So there's a lot here about being first generation. So she butts heads a lot with her parents, especially her mother, like I said, who is Dominican, and there's a real difference of culture there, and her parents are very different from parents from her peers, and they have different rules, and it's really about her finding her own voice in her own way. But what I really liked about this is that it wasn't handled in a way that was like, oh, she just needs to get away from her mother and then everything will be fine. Like, I found that was handled in a way where she was still able to have a relationship with her mother and work through those things, but still kind of move forward with her own life. So I do think this was a little bit maybe too teenage for me personally, but I think I would have loved this as a teenager, especially one who was very into writing poetry at the time. So I would really recommend it for young adults or teenagers. And overall, it was super engaging. So now I'm going to talk about the books that were not a part of CaribAthon. So this month I read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. So if you are not familiar, this is a techno thriller where dinosaurs essentially eat people, and it is great morbid fun. I've never read any Michael Crichton before, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I don't read a ton of commercial fiction, but I mean, this guy's books are famous for a reason, I guess. It was definitely thrilling and suspenseful, and it was different enough from the movie that even if you know the movie really, really well, there would be surprises in this book for you. First of all, there are a lot of extra scenes in the book that of course didn't make it into the movie, so there's lots of extra dinosaurs wreaking havoc content. Secondly, there are characters in the book that were not in the movie, so I wasn't sure what was going to happen to them, so that added a little bit of extra suspense for me. And without naming names, there are characters who die in the movie but survive in the book, and those that survive in the movie but die in the book. So all that to say, even if you're a fan of the movie like I am, there's enough to kind of keep you guessing and to keep the suspense going. The book also delved a little bit more into the ethical questions. There was a lot of talk about science as a commodity versus, science as a way to explore curiosity. Overall, I thought this was a lot of fun. It was super well paced, and it was really everything you would want in a thriller. And this is also a good one if you like that added on piece of science and technology as well. So the next book I read was actually a poetry collection, Disintegrate, Dissociate by Arielle Twist. This is an Indigenous author who is Two-Spirit. She's a trans individual, and this poetry collection really does heavily reflect that experience. It's a very personal collection of poems dealing with being marginalized and mistreated as an Indigenous person, being marginalized and mistreated as a trans person. It tackles questions about, where is home, what is home when your land and culture and language have been ripped from you, and what is it to not feel at home in your own body. The poems have a quite gritty feel to them, I would say. They made me feel very uneasy and almost dirty. There are a lot of poems that deal with the feelings of being used, so I think maybe that feeling of uneasiness or dirtiness was intentional, because that was very much a theme, the theme of being used and discarded. I felt like some of the poems lacked a little bit of nuance for my own personal taste. However, this is a debut collection, and I would definitely consider picking up more by Arielle Twist, because you can really see, or at least I felt like I could see her craft developing into something really great. And the last book I read was Unnatural Causes by Dr. Richard Shepherd. This is a nonfiction by one of Britain's top pathologists. Pathologists are doctors who perform postmortems or autopsies, and the author is actually a forensic pathologist who specializes in kind of unnatural or criminal deaths. So if someone is murdered, or if the circumstances surrounding a death are suspicious, or if there's any foul play suspected, or if there's like a horrible accident or disaster, that's when he would basically be called in. So this book really explains the details of not only how pathology and postmortems work, but the details of how the system works, how pathologists work along with like detectives and police, and how they fit into the criminal justice system, how they're called on as witnesses, like expert witnesses. And it also explains a bit about, what questions post-mortem examination can answer, but also what questions they can't answer, which I thought was really interesting, because I think there's a notion that when you do a post-mortem, it's kind of like magic, and it's obvious, you can just see what killed a person, but it's actually way, way more complicated than that. The author also touches a little bit about, how he got into this, like what fascinated him about this career choice, and how this line of work has affected him personally. So if you are like me and you are interested in anything related to the medical field, or you are interested in things related to death, then I think you would find this interesting. Those were the books that I read in June. If you've ever read any of these, please let me know what you thought of them. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope everyone's doing well. Take care. Bye.